Hello everyone, today I'll be working through servicing each components of the new Evolution X pump. The tools you'll need for this include lithium grease, a pair of pliers, a small pick, snap ring pliers, a socket driver, half-inch socket, half-inch wrench, torque wrench, a 6-point 1 3/8 socket, a non-marring tool or vise. Today we'll be using a pair of aluminum soft jaws, a 7/32 inch Allen head socket, blue Loctite, and some shop towels or other similar cleaning cloth. To perform the following maintenance procedures, you'll need the wet end kit and the air end kit for your respective pump size, which can be purchased from your local Sandpiper distributor. If the pump you'll be working on has come into contact with any hazardous materials or chemicals, please wear appropriate PPE such as nitrile gloves or eye protection. Let's begin. First, removing the cap screws, air inlet cap and inlet cap gasket from the pump assembly to gain access to the air valve assembly. Next, remove the air valve assembly from the pump. Notice two locking end caps on either side of the air valve assembly. Using pliers, twist the end caps 90 degrees counterclockwise to unlock, then pull straight out to remove them from the valve assembly. Next, remove the sleeve and spool from the valve body and replace the O-rings using a small pick. Apply a light coat of lithium grease to the O-rings on the sleeve and end caps. Press the air valve body down onto the sleeve to begin reassembly. Assemble the first end cap onto the top of the valve body. If seated properly, the interlocking features should sit flat on the valve body plane in the unlocked position. Then use pliers to twist the end cap clockwise 90 degrees to lock it. Then insert the spool and repeat this process for the end cap on the other side of the valve body. Note that the sleeve and spool are a match set. If one gets damaged, you'll need to replace the pair. Use the snap ring pliers to remove the snap ring from the air valve body. Next, remove the spool and sleeve and inspect its O-rings for wear and damage and replace it if necessary. Next, use lithium grease, lightly lubricate the O-rings on both the sleeve and the spool. Then press the pilot sleeve into the air valve body, and then slide the spool into the pilot sleeve. Use the snap ring pliers to resecure the snap ring into the air valve body. Remove the manifolds and one outer chamber section using the half-inch socket and half-inch wrench. Please note that a pipe wrench is not recommended to remove the hex bolt on the outer diaphragm plate. The best tool options are a 1 3/8 inch 6-point socket. With access to the inside of one inner chamber, remove the diaphragm assembly. The diaphragm assembly includes the outer diaphragm plate, diaphragm overlay if applicable, the diaphragm, and the inner diaphragm plate. Once removed, begin the process on the other chamber and diaphragm assembly. On the second side, you may remove the diaphragm assembly or diaphragm assembly connected to the rod. When removing the diaphragm assembly from the rod, we recommend using a vise with a set of aluminum soft jaws. This is to not scar or scratch the stainless diaphragm rod while removing the other diaphragm assembly. Any flaws, cracks, chips, or other scuff marks can cause the shaft to prematurely wear or damage the U-cup seals. Please use caution during this step. Once both diaphragm assemblies have been removed, look for cracks, wear, or chemical attacks on the diaphragms and rust deformities on the diaphragm rod. Also inspect both inner and outer diaphragm plates for cracks, pitting, or other damage. Inspect outer radius of both plates for any sharp edges. You can reestablish the outer radius using emery cloth, Scotch-Brite, or light sandpaper. This is to help prevent premature diaphragm failure. Clean or replace any or all parts as needed. Remove the cap screws that hold the inner chamber to the center section using the 7/32 inch Allen socket. Next, remove the actuator pins, O-rings, seals, and U-cup seal. Thoroughly inspect each component for any signs of wear and replace them as needed. To reassemble, reinstall the U-cup seal, intermediate seals, O-rings, and actuator pins in the center section. Apply a small amount of lithium grease from your kit to all parts. Then reinstall the inner chamber using the cap screws with blue Loctite on the threads. Once tightened with a 7/32 inch Allen socket, use a torque wrench to tighten each cap screw to 150 inch-pounds. Then flip the center section over and repeat on the opposite side. Place the gasket properly lined onto the air valve body. The valve body features will help to hold the gasket in place during reassembly. Be sure to reach inside the air valve section of the intermediate and push the actuator plunger pins outward to make room for the air valve assembly. With the gasket installed, line up the valve body with the pump center section and slide it into place. Reinstall the gasket, the air inlet cap, and reinstall the cap screws using a 1/2 inch socket to hold their air valve body securely in place. Tighten the cap screws with a 1/2 inch torque wrench to 150 inch-pounds. Hold the inner diaphragm plate by the hex with a vise or similar non-marring tool. Lightly lubricate the inner or flat surfaces of both outer and inner diaphragm plates using a compatible lubricant. Note that when using PTFE overlay diaphragms, no lubricant is required and that water is recommended for EPDM diaphragms. Locate the air side on the diaphragm and assemble with that side facing the inner diaphragm plate. Push the threaded stud of the outer diaphragm plate through the center hole of the diaphragm and then thread it into the outer diaphragm plate center hole with the hex facing outward. The diaphragm should contact the flat surface of the inner diaphragm plate. Tighten the inner diaphragm plate to 320 inch-pounds using a 1 3/8 socket and torque wrench. Repeat these steps for the other diaphragm assembly. Thread one diaphragm assembly onto the diaphragm shaft, making sure the inner diaphragm plate is fully threaded onto the shaft. An easy way to verify this is that the shaft will bottom out on the flat surface with the hex of the inner diaphragm plate. Then insert one bumper onto the shaft. Lightly lubricate the main shaft. Then install the diaphragm shaft assembly into the pump and secure it by installing the outer chamber on that side by tightening down the 8 socket cap bolts with a 1/2 inch socket and wrench. On the other side of the pump, place a second bumper on the shaft and thread it into the remaining diaphragm assembly. Using a 1 3/8 6-point socket and torque wrench to tighten that assembly to 320 inch-pounds. For any pump with a PTFE diaphragm overlay, align the diaphragm through the bolt holes, always going forward past the recommended torque. Never reverse to align the holes. Next, install the second outer chambers of the pump using a 1/2-inch socket and wrench to tighten the 8-socket cap bolts. Then use a 1/2-inch socket and torque wrench to tighten all 16 cap bolts, 8 per outer chamber, to 150 inch-pounds and a star crossing pattern. Finally, replace the seats, seat seals, and balls and reassemble the manifolds. Using a 1/2-inch socket and torque wrench, tighten each of these bolts to 150 inch-pounds and a star crossing pattern. Your Evolution X pump is now back in working order, having been properly serviced and is ready to get back to work. If you have any additional questions, please visit www.sandpiperpump.com. Thanks and have a great day.